I was 15 years old when this happened, and even now, years later, it still sticks with me. Not in a supernatural, haunted kind of way, but in that low, nagging fear that comes when something in your gut tells you a moment wasn't normal. That something you brushed off back then might have been a lot more serious than you let yourself believe. It was a Friday night, and I was home alone babysitting my little sister. She had just turned 2 at the time. My parents had gone out for the night. Something to do with my dad's work function, I think. They weren't the type to leave us often, and when they did, it was usually just for a few hours. We were renting this 2-story house in a small town, the kind of place where everyone knows each other, and your neighbors have probably lived in the same house for decades. This rental wasn't perfect, but it was cheap and roomy, and the landlord was an older guy who lived a few streets over and handled repairs himself. The house itself had some quirks. The floors creaked constantly, and the upstairs hallway light would flicker unless you hit the switch a certain way. There was a weird crawl space in the back of my parents' closet, and a laundry chute no one ever used. I didn't think much of any of that back then. It was just an old house. That night, my sister had gone to bed early. I gave her a bath, read her a few pages from her picture book, and laid her down in her crib upstairs. By 9, she was out cold, holding onto her stuffed giraffe like she always did. I headed back downstairs with a few slices of pizza and planted myself on the couch in the living room. I remember it was unusually quiet that night. We didn't live in a high traffic area, but still. No cars, no dogs barking, not even the usual hum from the neighbor's television through the walls. I put on a movie, just something to kill time. I think it was one of the Transformers movies, or maybe a superhero flick. Something dumb and loud that a 15-year-old would be into. I turned the volume low so I could hear my sister if she woke up. It was around 1 a.m. when I heard it. The sound was faint at first, just a soft little jingle, like music from a child's toy. I paused the movie and listened. Nothing. Then it came again. This time louder. It was my sister's toy. One of those battery-powered animals that talks and sings when you press its belly. It was a pink bear that played this shrill, annoying tune, followed by a giggle. I hated that thing. It was loud, and it would sometimes go off randomly even when no one touched it. But this wasn't a short, accidental sound. The toy kept going, over and over. The same jingle, then the laugh, then the jingle again. I got up and walked into the kitchen. The toy was lying in the middle of the floor, just sitting there, still playing. I stared at it for a second, completely thrown. My first instinct was to check on my sister. I ran upstairs to her room. She was fast asleep, breathing softly, curled up under her blanket. The stuffed giraffe clutched to her chest. No pink bear in sight. My stomach sank. I walked back downstairs slowly. The toy was still there, still playing its music. I bent down and picked it up. The plastic felt cold. I flipped the switch to off and carried it upstairs. I didn't even put it back in her toy bin. I just set it on the dresser next to the nightlight and grabbed the biggest kitchen knife I could find before laying down on the floor beside her crib with a blanket. I stayed awake the rest of the night, staring at the doorway. Every creak in the floor, every groan from the house, had my pulse jumping. Nothing else happened. The next morning, when my parents got home, I didn't say anything. I didn't want to sound paranoid, and honestly, I tried to convince myself it was just a fluke. Maybe I had left the toy downstairs by accident. Maybe it rolled off the couch or something and the batteries were just acting up. A few weeks later, the landlord came by to fix a leak in the downstairs bathroom. He was a strange guy, mid-60s, always wore the same zip-up jacket and jeans that were too short. Harmless, but off. My dad made a joke about how old houses have secret doors and hiding spots, and the landlord chuckled. Then he said something that still makes my skin crawl. "You know," he said, laughing, "I used to mess with my cousins when I was younger. I'd sneak into their house and hide in closets, crawl spaces, stuff like that. Scared the hell out of them." He smiled, like it was this hilarious childhood memory. Then he added, "Still do it sometimes, just to keep things interesting." I looked at him. He looked right back at me. It wasn't a joke. There was no laugh, no grin, just eye contact that lasted a little too long. I didn't say anything. Neither did my dad. The landlord just finished tightening the pipe and left. I didn't sleep well after that. We moved out 2 months later. I never saw anything else that strange in the house. Never found signs of someone breaking in. But to this day, I still can't explain how that toy ended up downstairs, how it kept going and going, how my 2-year-old sister could have possibly brought it down there herself while asleep. And I can't shake the look on the landlord's face when he said it, like he wanted me to know that I wasn't alone that night. I was maybe 13 or 14 when this happened, old enough to be trusted to stay home alone, but still young enough that the idea of it felt exciting and a little bit like an adventure. It was a random Sunday in the fall. My parents had taken my younger brother to some out-of-town event, and I had the whole house to myself for the first time in a while. It started off great. I stayed in my pajamas all day, made popcorn at like 10 in the morning, and watched movies on the big TV in the living room without anyone asking to change the channel. I remember thinking how peaceful it was. Just me, the house, and the quiet. But after a few hours, I got bored. One of my friends lived only 2 blocks away, and I figured, why not walk over for a bit? I knew my parents had told me not to leave the house while they were gone, but it didn't feel like a big deal. It was daylight, the neighborhood was quiet, and I figured I'd be back before they even knew I left. So I grabbed a hoodie, slipped on my shoes, and walked out the front door. What I didn't realize in my rush to leave was that I hadn't locked the door behind me. I spent a few hours at my friend's house playing video games, eating snacks, and just hanging out. I lost track of time, like you do when you're young and not paying attention. When I finally headed home, the sun was just starting to set. It was that weird golden hour when everything looks nice, but somehow feels a little eerie. As I walked up the driveway, I felt something strange in my gut, like a weird heaviness. I didn't know why at the time. The house looked normal from the outside. The door was still closed, windows looked intact, but something felt off. When I stepped inside, I immediately noticed the air felt different, still and heavy. The way a room feels when someone's been in it too long without saying anything. I shut the door behind me and turned the lock. I dropped my hoodie onto the couch and walked into the kitchen. That's when I saw the cabinet doors. Almost every one of them was open. Not just 1 or 2 like someone forgot to close them, all of them, wide open, like someone had been going through them fast. There were cereal boxes on the floor, some drawers half open, a cup knocked off the counter onto the tile. I froze. At first, I tried to convince myself I had done that before I left. Maybe I'd been in a rush and just forgot. But the more I looked around, the more that didn't make sense. I walked slowly through the house. Living room, nothing stolen. TV still there. Bedroom. My bed was made. Nothing seemed touched. But that gut feeling just got stronger. I started calling out, trying to sound brave. Hello? Is anyone here? Silence. I called again. Hey, if someone's here, I'm calling the cops. Still nothing. I stood at the foot of the stairs and stared up. The hallway light was off. It was just dark up there. I didn't move. I just kept listening. Nothing. I was about to grab my phone to call my mom when it started ringing on its own. Unknown caller. I hesitated for a second, then answered. Hello? Nothing at first. Then I heard it. Heavy, raspy breathing. Like someone was holding the phone too close to their mouth. I couldn't even hear background noise, just the breathing. Who is this? I asked. More breathing. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I tried to tell myself it was a prank. Maybe one of my brother's friends or some kid who got the wrong number. 2 minutes later, my phone rang again. Unknown caller. I picked up, heart racing. Hello? Same thing, breathing, louder this time. I snapped. Seriously, who is this? Click. They hung up. Now I was scared. Not just nervous, genuinely scared. I turned on all the lights in the living room, grabbed my phone charger, and started dialing 911 in case it happened again. Then my phone rang a third time. Same caller ID. I answered, voice trembling. What do you want? There was silence for a few seconds, then I heard it. A low, whispering voice. I'm in the house. I swear I stopped breathing. My whole body just locked up. I couldn't move, I couldn't think. It didn't feel real, like something out of a horror movie, not real life. I wanted to believe it was a joke, that it was my brother or one of his friends messing with me. But he was hours away with my parents, and none of them even knew I had left the house. The call disconnected. Then I heard it. A creaking sound from upstairs, like someone shifting their weight on the wooden floorboards. Then another, louder. I backed toward the front door, still holding my phone. That's when I heard footsteps. Fast, heavy ones, like someone running across the hallway upstairs. Something fell with a crash. I don't know what it was. I didn't stick around to find out. I ran. Out the front door, down the street, didn't stop until I hit the edge of the woods a few blocks over. I ducked behind a tree, out of breath, heart pounding, and called 911. I told them someone was in my house. I gave them the address and waited there until I saw a squad car pull into the driveway. They cleared the house, went room by room, but the guy was gone. They said the front door was wide open when they arrived. No signs of forced entry, nothing stolen, just a mess in the kitchen and an open window upstairs. They never found the guy, never figured out who called me. I didn't even get a call log for it. The numbers never showed up again. My parents were furious when they found out I had left the house unlocked, but after seeing how shaken up I was, they didn't say much more. I got lucky that night. Really lucky. And I've never left my door unlocked since. I still don't know who was in the house, but when I think about how quiet it was when I got back, how long he might have been watching me before calling, I get chills. Because that voice didn't just say, I'm in the house, like it was a prank. He said it like a promise. Like he'd been there, waiting, the whole time.